Good morning. Week 3 of retirement. It's before 8 a.m. I took one of my family members' cars downtown and got it in line to be inspected. And then I hopped on one of those scooters, rode to the Greenway, and now I'm walking back home the rest of the way. It's nice to be retired at 52 and be able to help family members out with things like that. And this week, I think we're going to give just a description of why I decided to retire. And it's not meant to be advice, but it's just the facts and how I came to that decision.
So I put it in writing, and I'm going to say it once again. This video is about my wife and my decision about retirement. Do not take it as financial advice about your own retirement. Do your own research. I made the numbers in this really round. They are kind of close to the right numbers. They are realistic numbers. But on the screen would be one teacher in Virginia at the top of the pay scale. We have two. In reality, I have retired. My wife is doing her 30th year and will retire at the end of this year. So assuming we get $2,000 pay increases each year, 3 years ago I was making $78,000. 2 years ago, $80,000. Last year, $82,000, which would be a average of $80,000 per year. The rule of thumb is Virginia retirement system takes your highest 36 months of continuous pay, and they get that average, which we just said was 80,000. They cut that in half, meaning I'll get a pension of $40,000 annually. Once Michelle retires, we'll get another $40,000 for a total of $80,000 annually. So that kind of sets up our decision here. On one hand, we could continue teaching and make $164,000 per year, but we both have to do all of that teaching work. On the other hand, we could retire, not have to go to work, and collect $80,000 in pension. Taxes is an important consideration. It is also important to remember that our tax system taxes the first money you earn less and the money on top of that at a higher rate. So the first like $23,000 is the standard deduction and zero taxes are applied to it. There's about $20,000 after that that's only taxed at 10%. And then the tax bracket on top of that would be the 12% tax bracket. The top line on this shows that if you made $80,000, you would pay about $5,600 in taxes. Basically, you paid 7% in taxes, and you would say that you're in the 12% tax bracket because the money on top of the scale is taxed at 12%. If you make more than twice as much money, your tax owed will not double, it will actually almost quadruple to just under $20,000. The effective tax bracket there, what you were taxed, is 12%, but you would call yourself in the 22% tax bracket because the money you made at the top end was taxed at the highest rate. So the difference is not $84,000 between the pay you get. The difference is about $70,000 that you get. There are a couple things about the way a pension works that I didn't understand until recently. One of them is that there was always this statement we would get, and it had an amount in cash that we had paid in, and then it had an amount of interest, and so like a total that was in our account. The screen shows the real numbers for my wife. So it's like $107,000 is that amount that it displays if she logs into VRS. I was always confused about this because if you started collecting your pension, that money would be gone in less than 3 years. So the deal with that money is if you were to retire, die 3 months later, you've collected 3 pension checks for like $9,000. Okay, there's $107,000 in there, so you're going to get, or estate or your family is going to inherit the other 98,000. So if you start collecting the pension, you're guaranteed to get that amount, whether you live long enough to collect it or not. If you get to like 3 years later when that money has been all used, then if you died like 4 years later, your pension checks just stop coming. There is a bit of life insurance that is included in the VRS plan, but it is not years of money to be spending. There's a thing that complicates stuff a lot called the plop, and I feel kind of embarrassed right now that I didn't go memorize what those letters stand for. I do believe that it's like the stupidest name for like a financial apparatus. In Virginia we have the SOLs. I always thought that that was a stupid choice because that already stood for something before they said it was the standards of learning. So I know that plop is partial lump. I'm sure the last P is payment, but I can't remember what the O is. Anyway, it really complicates things. So you get to your 30th year, and if you don't retire and work 31, 32, or 33 years, you can take something called the plop. And what it does is it gives you like a cash advance. So let's say you like worked your 31st year. They would give you like 1 year of your pension, but they would give it to you up front at the time of retirement. Now, that money is not just free and clear, it's taxed, and there's actually penalties on the way it's taxed if you cash it out. Like in my case, at age 52, if I had earned the plop and then cash it out, there's penalties when I take it. So it's very common for people to roll it into IRAs or roll it into some type of fund that is paying for like health insurance. There's different vehicles to do that. What I don't like about it is that it actually lowers your pension payment. So if you work 30 years, you get a certain amount. If you work 31 years, you get a lower amount. On the screen, I'm not really sure because this came from the VRS calculator in my wife's account. In my account, I can't run the calculator because I'm already retired. But for some reason, her basic benefits showed up as being higher than it was on other estimates for this screen. And then, but it did lower it like $300. So you get like $40,000 at once. That's got some strings tied to it, and then you get $300 less a month for the rest of your life. You can do that plop with 1, 2, or 3 years. So you could end up getting like $120,000 as like a cash award, but once again, that cash is tied up in a bunch of rules about how you spend it. The other thing that complicates things for couples, like let's say we were counting on having $80,000 a year in pensions, but then I died in a couple years, and now my wife's only getting $40,000 in pensions. So you have something called the survivor option. And so they take into account how old you are because of how long you're going to live and how likely they are to have to make that payment for a while. But what happens is they reduce the amount of pension you get every month. But then if I died first and my wife lived another 20 years, she would get the survivor option number for the rest of her life. So it reduces the amount, and in this case it's like about 10%. And you can see the benefit right there, and then you can see the new benefit right here if you choose the survivor option. So the way we've chose to deal with that is I took the basic benefit and did not choose the survivor option, but I went and got health insurance, and so I pay $162 a month, and when I die, my wife will get $500,000. The policy I got is good for 20 years, so I'm able to pay that 162 until I'm age 72. And if I live past 72, great. And we can think about if we need to worry about life insurance at that point.
So, time for a break after talking about these specific details in depth for the last several minutes. So, this is part of my walk after the intro I filmed, and I'm on the beautiful Greenway in Roanoke, Virginia. This bridge is going to take me across the Roanoke River, and this is probably half a mile from beautiful Grandin Village in Roanoke, but it feels like you're in the middle of nowhere. If you've held on this far and are enjoying my content, please click the subscribe button. It would help me out a lot.
So health insurance. This is the big one, and it's the one with the most unknowns. So politically things change, and it's in turmoil right now about the future of this, but I don't know what we're going to do. At this point, my wife is working her last year, so I'm on her health insurance plan. So it's delayed when I have to solve this problem. But right now, the Affordable Care Act, I can get insurance through that and pay monthly, and it will be a big deal, and it will be very expensive. But I haven't worked it out, but it's definitely the important question that people ask me, and at this time I don't have a good answer for them. This idea is probably the most important thing in my decision-making process. I'm going to feel better and be healthier and be the most capable in the next 10 years. It's just a fact that in my 60s, I'm not going to feel as good as I do in my 50s. There's nothing you can do to get back time, and so I want to take advantage of this time when I have the chance. My kids are in their mid-20s, and being able to go help them with things that they need, retiring will free me up for that. If there's any grandkids in my future, it'll be great having a totally free schedule to help out. Lost my dad when he was 53. So that has helped me focus on the importance of these years. I get asked about how I'm going to deal with the loss of income. I really think that question is phrased wrong, because we didn't do the work to earn the $164,000, so we didn't lose it. In the new situation, we would be getting $80,000 a year for not working, and then that would be our starting point. If we need more money, we can always get jobs. Both my wife and I could tutor or sub. Virginia Tech has football games around here, and they pay people to stand in the aisles during those games. There's concerts, and they pay people to stand in the aisles during those concerts. I've got skills as a handyman that I could somehow turn into money. I could do something new, like become a YouTube icon and make money. Those are just some obvious ways that just are available. I hadn't even considered thinking outside the box and opening a small business, or going to work at some company, or getting some kind of new training that helps me get a job at some company. If I was to go get a job that was at a company, that would also solve that earlier issue about health insurance. So it's something that we always have as a backup. And the way I figure it, if I'm getting paid $40,000 already to not work, all I got to get on the new job is $42,000. And with salaries the way they are right now, getting $42,000 a year doesn't seem that difficult. So that's always a backup plan if the money is tight. So there's two sides to finances. One is how much money you bring in. The second is how much money you spend. There's a guy called Mr. Money Mustache, and he is a blogger, and he's got a couple like things on television I've seen now. But I started following him about 15 years ago, and his story was that basically he worked at a high-income job for 10 years, saved a whole lot of money, and retired very early, and then continues to live frugally. And he's not running out of money. In fact, he's actually becoming pretty rich now. And the reason is because he controlled the expense side of his lifestyle. He would look at my lifestyle and think that we have all kinds of lavish, extravagant things happening in our lives. But we have like learned to live sort of in that way. We have always made more money than we spent. We have always saved money. We have always avoided debt. At this point, we've got 3 properties. We have a mortgage on one of those. That mortgage is less than half the value of the house. We've got an old Jeep that's in rough shape. We've got a new Honda that's under warranty. We don't have payments on either of those. We don't have credit card debt. We've come through a period in our lives where we had 7 years of making large tuition payments to colleges. Those days are over. We've come through a period where we saved money every month and put it in stocks. At retirement, that can stop happening. We can let the money that is in there grow, and we don't necessarily need to add to that money. So we're at a spot where we're in good shape, and living for $80,000 a year seems like it's possible. And if we need more, if we need $100,000, we can go earn $20,000.
So before we wrap up this video, I noticed something when I was reviewing the footage. There's something that was kind of taken for granted or not emphasized enough that helped me get to this comfortable spot in life. And that is my wonderful wife. She is an excellent teacher, excellent mother, and without her help and work and her being a partner this whole time, we never would have made it to where we are today. So tune in next week if you want to see what Drew's up to.